Greetings and salutations, my fellow gods. We start with the uber rough sketch and go to clean it up with some nice thin lines. I like to do 3-point for my outer lines. I tend to do 2-point for the inner lines, but I always like to clean it up as I go. Sometimes it's hard to get those curves straight or lining up that they flow smoothly, especially if you're coming at an angle you're not that comfortable with. So I find I'm always rotating in my chair. Just want to make it so that there's a flow to her, so I kind of put that middle line there. Give her the flow. It's all about the flow. I want her to have a nice heart-shaped face. She is the love interest of the main character. Oh, spoiler alert. Her name is Sephenique. And she's a very well-natured. And she's also not only a snake person, Vecratori, as I call them in my world, but she's half human. So she has some human-like features, more so than the other Vecratori do anyway, including ears. Yes, she has ears. I wanted to stay away from giving them hair, because that might be a little too much, but who knows? In the future, there may be a Vecratori with a hair mutation, or, since they're all about, magic and enhancements and stuff like that, why not do some plugins, eh? Some baby doll hair. And I'm looking at my own hand as I do this for my hand reference, just holding in different positions and trying to emulate that, see what that looks like. And as always, cleaning up the lines as I go. And so I was happy with the way that looked, just adding in some fingernails. Not the claws. She keeps them more manicured than the male characters do. Wasn't happy with that little fingernail. And the hand position was way off. Just from my rough sketch, it was pretty terrible. So she's kind of like a little, almost demure pose with her, her hands on top of one another. Yeah, a little too unruly nail there. Go with her underbelly lines. Tighten them up. So each of the characters will have different kind of underbellies. Most of them, the male characters have like white underbellies, but the girls tend to, have more colorful underbellies than the males do. Except for ones who happen to tattoo themselves, like the last speed draw character that I did, which was Eldest. And Sephenique, well, I don't want to give too much away, but she is a slave. Yes, there is slavery magic that keeps your mind not your own, or your actions for that matter. Love those. I love going over my lines multiple times and straightening them up, tweaking them up, try and make them as even as possible. Just try to follow the flow a little bit, because she's kind of like leaning in one direction. Give her a new curve because one side is more facing towards us, so that's got more of the underbelly showing. Just thicken them up. Round out her breastises a little bit. Kind of almost like a spider web pattern on her underbelly. Yeah, there's the ears. Just throw that in there for fun. Yeah, I was thinking I didn't really like that, so I'm tweaking it up. You know, that's the thing about a rough sketch. It's just a rough. It doesn't, dictate the end result for your character by any stretch. But it's a good starting point to give you ideas, and you can work on the look of your character from there. Especially when you're doing like original designs, you got infinite options. So I've written about all these characters in the novel, which is called The Adventures of Icarus, Twin to Time. So yeah, I was thickening her out a little bit there. It was a little too thin. And that, I didn't like that either, so I thickened that part up in the end as well. Try and get those curves of flowing. Extend the underbelly. And I'm not really liking the way that looks, so I clean that up as well. Yeah, I wanted to have more of a straight head, so that transformation tool is super handy. Give her a little bit of the bum chin. Some pretty standard nostrils. I didn't. Then it's more along the finished look. Very picky with those shapes. Because that is definitely a focal point for some people. I'm just fooling around with different shapes here to see if I like anything. No, none of them really. That's why I did them very lightly and check it versus the original sketch anyway. Adding in a little bit of more finer details. Using the one point brush. So it's very, very fine at that point. Like high detail. Or at least for me anyway. So now I'm going into some coloring. And I designed these little brushes kind of like playing around with different styles. And adding, I like the whole dual brush. That's very fun. Go in, painting over top, and for some reason my record of my actual one didn't play. It didn't work. I had issues with hotkeys, and so this is a secondary skin that I've just basically show the different technique that I was using to get her colors as is, and had some fun playing around with the layers and whatnot, and getting them with different opacities so that both colors were on top of one another. But overall, I thought this was a very interesting color palette choices for her. But this is the actual ones when I had the end of it where I added I got her more of a green tones. I'm just, lightening up her face a bit. I'm trying to make her a little more cute. And now it's time to add in the shadows. I found a nice shading color that I liked that worked pretty well with most of the colors. And I tried a different layer style. I went with the color burn for this one. Just you see how it doesn't really work so well on that bright yellow portion where it looks like you can see speckled, spotty. And so I fix it up with the clone stamp tool, just cloning a portion that does work. And I played around with the idea of having the shading on her lips as well, but yeah, here's where I'm tweaking up. So I was using a 45% opacity so that I can go over it multiple times to get the darkness. And yes, I stole some actual lips from Pinterest, and I was like, play around with the idea of adding the lines to them, but somehow I thought she looked very cute with those humanoid plump lips. Just playing around with the curves and trying to get that nice vibrant color that looks very good. Just adding a little bit of gloss to it. There we go, Sally style. Just want to see how the Joker looked, but no, I didn't really like that. So I added in her little eye teeth. Just playing around with some highlights now. That was just for fun, just to see what it would look like, but no, not in the end. There's her little humanoid ears. Just did some clone stamping to get the color right. Add it to the rest. Just filled that in as well. And then I thought I would play around with some blending there, just to make it not so it can't really tell it was clone stamped. And I had this idea of because in my description, I say that her eyes are kind of like gray, like a storm. And well, there you have it. The finished product. I hope you like it.